na na na, while the music roll out.
Yeah, man.
Oh na na.
Hey there, how you guys doing? Just vibes into some good old reggae music on this Sunday. But hey, did you know that only 61% of Americans right now would be able to handle a $400 unforeseen expense? That's according to a survey done by the Federal Reserve in December of last year. So that's pretty recent. That leaves 39% of Americans having no idea, no clue what they would do if an unforeseen expense of $400 had to just pop up on them. Now to me, that's pretty alarming. And I'm hoping that you guys are in the 61% that would be ready for that particular expense. But if you're not, that's fine too. That's why this video today is being created. Now I know due to the economic climate, there's a lot of talk about investing and trying to get, a higher return on your investment. But I want to just say, pump the brakes for 1 second. Now investing is good, and yes, it provides a better opportunity to get a higher return on investment. But there is one thing that you need to do before you start investing, and that's create an emergency fund account. Yes, that's the one thing that I recommend and advise that you do before you start taking your money and investing it into markets like the stock market and real estate. So this video we're going to cover today, what is an emergency fund, right? The importance of an emergency fund, why you need it, how much is actually enough when it comes to saving for an emergency. I'll give you my top recommendation if you do stick around until the end of this video on where you should actually open that account, and just kind of give you some tips on how you could actually fund your emergency account outside of your regular income. So if you're ready to educate your mind and elevate your life, then let's get it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So if you're new to the channel and we haven't met, my name is Ellie, and I want to say welcome to Ellyvation Vybz. If you haven't already subscribed, then please consider doing so. It definitely helps the channel out. If you're not new to the channel, then I just want to say thank you so much for your dedication and your support. It's really appreciated. So let's jump right into it. What's an emergency fund? So according to Investopedia, an emergency fund is a readily available source of asset to help people navigate financial dilemmas such as a loss of a job, medical illnesses, a major repair to your car, even a crisis like what the coronavirus pandemic is actually creating right now. So that's what Investopedia says an emergency fund is. Now I'm gonna break it down to you, and I'm going to tell you what an emergency fund is. It's actually money you need to put aside so when you're behind, gets in hot water, you could actually take it out, right? That's kind of what it is, right? That's like grandma and grandpa saying, hey, save for a rainy day, so it's your rainy day account, right? We just kind of, elevating it a little bit, giving it a little nicer name, and we're calling it an emergency fund account. Right? So some of you may have already started this, and you may not have given it the nice fancy name of an emergency fund account. You may have had it as like, hey, that's my little, side cash in case anything happen kind of thing, right? But what we want to do is we kind of want to be a little bit more professional with it, and we want to put it in a place where it could actually work for us, right? And that's where my one recommendation as to where you should open it comes into play. But I'll give you that a little bit later. So you got to keep sticking around, and you got to keep listening or watching. So now that you have the definition of an emergency fund, the question is, why do you need one? So I got 3 reasons why you actually need an emergency fund account. The first one is, it's just self-confidence, right? It's the same like having a 740, a 760, or even a 780. Or you could even go to an 800 credit score. When you walk into a bank with an 800 credit score, how do you feel? You just got that confidence, man. It's like, ain't nobody could stop me. Ain't no associate in here is going to deny me of a loan. It's like, I'm already approved even before I walked into this door. Like, you got such high confidence. It's like you're unstoppable. And that's what an emergency fund does as well. It gives you that confidence of, hey, if anything happens, I'm ready for it. I'm prepared. I'm ready to tackle whatever comes my way, right? So it gives you that confidence. That's the first thing. The second thing is it prevents you from having to take loans out that may have high interest rates, or even use your credit cards that may have high interest rates as well, right? So if you're trying to get out of debt, or you're trying to pay down a debt, what you're trying not to do is put yourself in more debt, right? Kind of just doesn't, it's like an oxymoron, doesn't make sense, right? So that's the second reason why you should actually have an emergency fund account. It's because it prevents you from getting into more debt trying to pay off debt. Now, the third reason is my favorite, and that is you don't want to go around asking nobody for money, right? Because you know how things could get once you start asking people for money. So you kind of want to kind of stay away from that at all costs. And creating this fund would allow you to stay away from it. And even if you actually do have to ask for help, people would be more willing to help someone that's actually shown evidence that they've been trying to help themselves. So, let's just say you were able to manage to save $10,000. But, the emergency that came up, it was $11,000. Now, somebody would quicker give you $1,000, right, to help you as opposed to giving you $11,000, right? So I'm not saying if you do save, you may not need, external help, but it would at least show those individuals that, hey, I was actually on the quest to kind of saving, to be prepared for these type of situations. It just came along a lot earlier, and I wasn't quite at that point where I could handle the full blunt of it, and more than likely people are going to help you, but you kind of want to try to prevent that at all costs. So now the question is being asked, how much is enough when it comes to saving for an emergency? Now that's a good question. So if you ask most financial professionals, they would tell you about 3 to 6 months is how much you want to save up when it comes to an emergency fund. Now if you're ambitious and you want to go for 8 months, even a year, that's fine, right? Set goals and go get them, right? But for the purpose of this video, we're going to say 3 to 6 months is kind of the sweet spot. So how do you get to that 3 to 6 month mark? Now, first, it's a process, right? So first, you got to figure out how much do you need to live off of for a month. So now that's where you got to dig into that budget. And if you do have a budget, this would be very easy for you to calculate. But if you don't have a budget, don't worry. I'll actually have a video coming talking about the importance of budgeting and how to actually create a budget and track your finances, right? But if you do have a budget, this would be easy to calculate. If you don't, then you would actually have to sit down and calculate everything you would need to continue paying for if you had to lose your job and you had no income. So we're talking about the necessities. So we're talking about your mortgage / your rent, your car note, your car insurance. If you got, some sort of healthcare insurance that you're paying for, you still got to put groceries inside there. You probably got to calculate something for gas because, you're going to still be driving that vehicle. You're not going to be staying home every single day. So you got to calculate that in there and whatever other situations you may have that suit your particular circumstance. Now, what we got to recognize is everybody's situation is different, right? So you may add something into your budget that I don't need to add into mine, right? And vice versa. So you just want to calculate your unique situation and the amount of money that you need to actually save or have to live comfortably for 1 month. Once you have that 1 month set aside, then now you kind of look at how much do you want to save? Do you want to save 3 months worth, 6 months worth, right? That's the next step. So after you've calculated your budget and figure out how much you need to save for a month, now we move on to step 2, which is calculating the 3 to 6 months, right? So if you want to go 3, then you calculate that 1 month total by 3. If you want to go to 6, you calculate that 1 month total by 6, so on and so forth, right? That's going to give you that number that you need to have in an account where you could actually lose your job, have no sort of income, and live comfortably for that amount of time. Now, what you would actually recognize is that number, it's going to be a pretty big number, right? So don't be intimidated by that number. what you want to do is move on to step 3, which is create a plan to get to that number. And when I say create a plan, I'm talking about how much money could you afford to contribute to that fund in quest to get into that number. Once you calculate that plan, then you move on to step 4, which is staying disciplined when it comes to achieving that goal. So discipline, remaining disciplined and remaining consistent, right? So if it means putting $10 every month, then put $10 every month. If it's 100, then put 100, and so on and so forth. But what you want to do, the biggest thing, if you don't take anything away from this step, it's actually remaining consistent and disciplined to the plan that you've put in place. And you've realized that, and you will realize that you would actually get to that goal a lot sooner than you think, right? It's all about starting and creating some sort of momentum. Once you create momentum, man, you're off to the races. Like you're legit gonna take off like a jet, and you're gonna actually shock your own self and surprise your own self at how fast you were able to achieve that goal. Now, it's not gonna happen overnight. It's not gonna happen in 6 months. May not even happen in a year. It may take a few years, right? But the point is, you're consistently working towards that goal. So those are the steps you want to take to kind of start moving in the right direction. So we've gotten to the good part. If you're still here, then hey, this is the part you've been waiting for, and you may have this information, and people that's not here at this particular point in the video may have just missed out. But the one recommendation, or the one place I would recommend that you open your emergency fund account, is in a high yielding savings account. Now you may ask, why a high yielding savings? So if you're actually going to your regular savings account right now that you have with your bank, you would recognize that it gives you about 0.2%. Like, look at the actual percent that you have, keeping in mind that inflation on a yearly basis on average rises about 2%. So if you have your money in a place that you're not getting at least 2% interest on it, then you're actually losing money on a yearly basis. Like, just think about that for a second. And this is money that you won't be investing, right? So you're going to be dependent on the actual interest rate along with your contribution to help grow this particular fund. So what you want to do is you want to put this fund in a high yielding savings account. What that allows it at least allows your money to grow with the rate of inflation. So you're not losing any buying power, you're not losing any money over the years, right? And that's the reason why I recommend now. Right now, due to the coronavirus pandemic, a lot of banks aren't giving, a lot of institutions are not giving high interest rates, right? And for obvious reasons. But when the economy is stable and things are flowing well, you could find a handful of banks that would actually give you close to 2% or even upwards of 2% in interest. So when you look at your contribution plus the interest that they're giving you, and then we're talking about now you have like a compounding effect happening, that's how you could actually see yourself getting to that particular goal much faster than you think. So that's my recommendation, a high yielding savings account. So let's talk about some ways you could actually fund this particular account outside of your regular income. So you could actually use your tax return to help speed up you getting to that goal, along with actual money that you're contributing from your regular income, whether that be weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. You could actually look around the house as well and see things that you've had for years that you aren't using that you could probably sell, right? And then use that money and contribute it to your emergency fund. I mean, you could also get a side hustle, something that brings in extra income, and use that money and put it towards your emergency fund. So there's a lot of different things that you could do to speed up this process, and just think about the compounding effect. The more money you're able to contribute, the more money you have in that account, that's, the higher your interest rate, is going to be in terms of how much money you get from interest, right? And then that's just compounding. And as you said, it's all about getting some sort of momentum. Once you get momentum going, you're gonna be good to go, right? So if it's one thing you do get from this video, is you need to start, create an emergency fund. And when you do create it, open it in a high yielding savings account. Now, if you have funds around the home, maybe you had something stashed, in a jar or something, or in a briefcase, whatever it might be, right? Consider taking that money, because if you have that money in your house, it's doing nothing for you, right? So consider taking that money and putting it into a high yielding savings account, and just see how much your mind is just blown away at how fast that money actually starts building, right? So if you do have one already, then consider putting it into a high yielding savings account. And if you don't, then I recommend that when you do open one, which I'm hoping would be soon, then you put it into a high yielding savings account. So if you do have an emergency fund, just let me know in the comment section below. Like, what's your goal? Is it 3 months, 6 months, a year? And if you actually don't have one, let me know when you're actually looking to start. And if for whatever reason you do need some sort of recommendation, or you need help, or you need more advice, or if there's something that's not clear, just let me know in the comment section, and we can have a dialogue there. Or I could create further video that expound upon this particular video on this topic. So I hope you guys like the video, and I hope you like the value, the content within the video. I hope it brought some sort of value to your life, right? And as I say, feel free to engage in the comment section, and we could have a dialogue. If there is another topic that you would like me to talk about, or if you would like me to expound upon this topic, then by all means, just let me know in the comment section. But I want to thank you guys for staying with me to the end of the video. And if you haven't already subscribed, then once again, I ask that you do so. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you found value in it, right? It really do helps the channel out when you like and you subscribe to the channel. So I want to say thank you so much. So until the next vid, I ask that you guys stay safe, continue to take care of yourself, and always remember to continue elevating your vibes.